atomic gigantification was a sweeping Japan nation when along came a dude with an ultra attitude, a Kamen rider who's the greatest kicker of Japan. And of all, man, life's too short now, baby, to not talk big now, baby.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to a brand new episode of Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me, as always, my co-host.
Hello, I am Rex.
And we are back at it again this month in March with another glorious episode.
Ain't that crazy, man?
We have been doing pretty good, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, so good, in fact, that you and I couldn't even remember if it was the week to record or not.
yeah, we were like, did we record Death Kappa last week? Did we not?
Pretty goofy of us.
To be honest, I forgot that it was going live until, you messaged me that it was going live. Yeah. I don't know if we're just really busy with, what we're doing or what, but yeah. Earlier today, I was just like, we're recording tonight, right?
Yeah.
I hadn't even watched the movie yet. I was like, I think we're recording tonight. I think I have to research and watch the movie. I don't remember.
I mean, weren't you researching a different movie entirely at some point?
Yeah. So I actually had got books out. I was about to read and do stuff. And then I was like, wait a minute. This is for an entirely different month. So maybe I'm sleep deprived.
Oh, well, that I don't doubt.
Look, man, when you're me and you've got so much going on, you kind of forget. I'll be up almost 24 hours before I go to bed, and I gotta get up anyway and go to work for 10.
Yeah.
There is no sleep for me.
Yeah.
Speaking of sleep, why don't we jump in here to how we've been doing? I mean, obviously it sounds like we've been busy, so let's just catch up a little bit here. We've been wanting to chat. We've been texting each other, but it's either I'm at work or I'm doing stuff or you're doing schoolwork or you're out and about. So
yeah,
we have not been on the same availability at all this last week and a half.
It's almost like we live in different countries.
Almost. Who would have guessed? Are we?
No. Impossible.
No, I feel like it's obvious. We both live in the same country.
Yeah, how else would we be recording this?
Yeah. And can't you tell from the way we speak? We clearly sound like we're two peas in a pod. Or in this case, two peas in a country.
Yeah, I speak American. I speak burger.
Wait, do you speak American?
Yeah, burger,
Why?
hamburger.
Why would you speak American when we live in Australia?
Well, you don't have a very good Australian accent then. Nah,
I don't. I really don't. I don't know enough. I keep to myself. So besides you, at least I thought you were Australian. Maybe I've been living a lie this whole time.
No, I'm burger.
It was the last burger. Speaking of burgers, I tried something new today. What? It was called a quesadilla burger.
I was close.
And it was quite simply two flour tortillas with bell peppers and lettuce and a sauce with a burger. It was supposed to be a quesadilla, but a burger.
Damn.
I don't know if it was that good. It didn't taste that good. Not really.
Well, that's a shame. I just had roast chicken on bread and lettuce. A very, very exciting meal, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Very healthy.
It is. It is healthy.
Yeah, a lot of carbs, though. A lot of carbs.
I mean, carbs are not the devil.
They're not. They're not. I had cinnamon rolls, too. Then I had some Mike and Ike's later on.
I don't know what that is, but congratulations.
They're like little pills that are candy.
Oh.
They're not drugs, I swear to God. Mike and Ike is not a term for like drugs, I swear to God.
Have you been taking a bit of Molly recently?
No comment.
A few tablets. Damn.
I would tell you what I've been on. Energy drinks again.
Oh, God damn it.
It's quite literally one of my traditions is every night. Tonight it was a little different because I got home late.
Mm-hmm.
But what my tradition always is before I come to my studio to record, I run by my job, walk in, go straight to the cooler that has these energy drinks that are stronger than Monster. I grab like 2 or 3 of them, and I buy them, and people are always like, why are you in so late? And I'm like, it's going to be one of those long nights. I got a podcast. I buy them, and then I drive here. So, like, it's now one of my podcast traditions is, like, I buy 2 to 3 energy drinks before I drive to my studio. And while I drive to my studio, I blast music.
Mm-hmm.
Today was Kung Fu Fighting.
Nice.
Which was a mood. Like, driving at 3 in the morning, blasting Kung Fu Fighting, drinking energy drinks on your way to a podcast recording. It is such a mood.
Mm.
And usually I end my drive with listening to A Cruel Angel's Thesis, which is a mood of itself, no matter where you're at.
Mm.
My favorite is when it's, like, decent, like, the temperature's nice out, and I drive with the windows down, and my car is just bouncing to the bass of that song, and I just act like it's normal music that everybody knows. I'm like slouched down, arms out the window, one arm on the steering wheel. Just like, yeah, I'm the coolest person on this road. I'm not a weeb.
Yes, you are. You are.
I'm not a weeb. I am not a weeb.
What kind of movies do you watch?
Live action Japanese science fiction horror films?
Weeb.
What do you watch? You tell me.
Live action Japanese special effects and horror.
You're a
films.
weeb.
Hey, I watched a British film yesterday, so like I'm slightly less weeb than you.
Well, I watched an American film the other day.
Classic Burger Man move.
It was Ford versus Ferrari.
Wow.
It's actually pretty good, not gonna lie.
That was very, very Burger Man of you.
Yeah, especially when it's a movie about American cars beating foreign, like European cars. quite literally, the the American movie.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
But it was pretty good. I get why it got nommed for a few Oscars and won a few.
Damn. It's good praise. So have you seen anything else that is of less of the burger kind and more of the Japanese tokusatsu kind?
No, like, I had plans. I actually just got Evil Dead Trap 2
Oh, nice.
Hibaki, right? Hibaki?
Isn't it Hideki?
Hideki. Yes, it's Hideki. It's okay. Hideki. I just got the Unearthed Films Blu-ray of that. Nice. I was going to watch it, but I ran out of time. But I did get that in. And I've been wanting to jump on some other things. Like Inazu-Dan, I got in. I want to watch that. Maybe Kikaida 01.
Oh, yeah. I heard that Generation Kikaida was like shutting down.
Yes. I just want to say, now I didn't do this like I did the Return of Godzilla or the Ghidorah and Mothra Blu-rays, but I've known about this for like almost a year now, and I've been telling my friends to order this stuff because it's going out of print. which is why I just recently purchased the last one I needed, which was Inazu-Man.
Yeah.
Because I knew this was happening. It kind of sucks because, like, they were the first distribution company in the States to, like, do any henshin on physical media like DVD or Blu-ray. Because this was before Shout Factory touched Sentai. This was before Mill Creek or BCI touched Ultraman or Iron King or Red Baron. This was before Kraken did Garo. Like this is like the first, and they are amazing releases. They're so detailed and so informative. It kind of sucks that now they're going away.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, their stuff has been available for a long time from the sounds of it.
It has been. It's been since like 2000 and like I want to say like 2006 is when they started releasing. And they did Kikaida 01, the Kikaida reboot film, Inazu-Man, and Kamen Rider V3. Weirdly enough, they didn't do Hikaider. That was always a Media Blasters title, which I always thought was weird because that was that in the Android Kikaida anime and the Kikaida 01 anime, they never touched. I thought that was kind of a weird choice for them.
I mean, perhaps, like, did Media Blasters do Hikaider before?
They might have.
Would have done it, possibly.
They might have.
And with, like, the Kikaida anime, probably, like, some anime distributor had it before.
Bandai did. Bandai had the rights to both. But they didn't do, like, Kamen Rider 71 either. But I think that was because of the price tag on that one. I know Toei is very dead set on that one being an expensive acquisition for whoever wants to license it.
Yeah. Or anyone who wants to buy a Blu-ray of it.
Yeah.
New 4K got announced, and I think for even just like one of the volumes for that, it's like a good $400+.
Yes. And isn't it 4 volumes?
I believe so, yes.
And it doesn't even include the 3 movies, right? Like, that's its own other box set you gotta buy.
The 2 movies are part of like a box set with all the other Kamen Rider movies in 4K.
So, like, you gotta buy that separately too. So, like, you end up buying 5 sets. You're spending, like, what is that? Almost $2,500 on just the first series of Kamen Rider.
Yeah. I mean, from what I understand, most Japanese Blu-rays are more geared towards the rental market, I think. Which is why the price
rental
is
or
expensive.
collectors. Rental or collectors. That's their main focus.
Yeah. Which is awful for us.
It is, because then to license them over here, it's expensive, and then there's always, like, region locking specifications, special features specifications, even, like, print quality specifications and subtitle specifications.
Thanks, Toho.
Yeah, Toho. Well, Toei did this, too, with Kamen Rider 01. That Blu-ray Shout released has the subs
wasn't that
burned
like
in.
Was it Kamen Rider 01 where people were complaining about the Blu-ray like being TV rip, like being
Yes.
Okay.
It's not true HD, and the subtitles are burnt into the footage. It's not an added layer that you can take on or off. Yeah, but that's because it's the newest. I think at the time that was the newest Kamen. Was it?
Probably when they licensed it.
Yeah, because since then they did Revis and I think Saber. Yeah.
Yeah, and Geats
now
is currently airing.
Yeah. So at the time Saber was airing, Revis wasn't announced, and Geats probably wasn't even planned yet. 01 was the newest show, and Toei required them, like, do it that way. But, I mean, we still got the specials and all the shows, so, like, I don't see an issue.
I mean, some of the specials. Not all.
Right. So, I mean, But the reason they do that, and like Toho with the Criterion set, like not doing the up-to-date transfers, is to prevent that backwards importation, which is your movies and TV shows getting better Western releases for a cheaper price. They don't want people going like to Amazon US and purchasing them.
Yeah.
Which, like, when Generations Kikaida first started, like, that wasn't an issue, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, DVDs were region locked. And even on, like, the DVDs, it says not for sale outside of Hawaii. Later becoming US only. They don't ship outside of the US.
Yeah. I'm aware, unfortunately.
Yeah. But even then, they, like... Kamen Rider V3, one show. I don't think there's a movie or anything. I think it's just the show and the bonus features. Mm-hmm. Is typically for retail $150, and then on the sale it's $100. You can buy both Discotek Kamen Rider releases for that price. Mm-hmm. For one DVD, you can get 2 Blu-rays.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people talking about, hopefully, Shout or Discotek picking up Kikaida 01, Inazu-Man, and Kamen Rider V3.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't doubt V3 will get another release someday.
My only issue with that is there is no way they're going to top the Generations Kikaida. Because I think at the time when those DVDs were licensed, the idea of backwards importation and region locking and shipping outside of the US and wider distribution was not a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to name names, but the Generations Kikaida DVDs did have a certain somebody who was prolific for Henshin Toei stuff, working on it, that like had visited the sets and talked to the people behind the shows and whatnot, who has now become somebody kind of infamous for not producing content in a timely manner, and has kind of been blacklisted in the historian fans, in air quotes, because of their temper.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
I don't see the content he brought to the table coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mike Dent, who has been working with Discotek specifically and editing the promotional footage for Shout, is doing a phenomenal job. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't do a great job. He does a tremendous job.
Yeah.
But it's different than having that, like, hands-on experience that this other individual did have.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not trying to discount Mike Dent, because he is a phenomenal human being from the interactions I've had with him, and just his knowledge on the genre is just amazing.
Yeah.
It just, you know, I feel like it's comparing apples and oranges. Like, they're two different people, two different, like, knowledge sets.
Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, it is still unfortunate to see, even in spite of the expensive prices, it's unfortunate to see Generation Kikaida go. And another set of Toku series to go out of print in the West.
It's funny, every time I feel like we make one step forward, we take 2 steps back. Like Shout released 01, and then we got confirmation on, was it Ryuki? We got confirmation on?
Yeah.
But then it was like
Blu-ray as well. Or did that come out before?
It came out before Ryuki, but we didn't get the announcement till after Ryuki's announcement.
Yep, that's right.
So, like, Shout Factory did those, but it took them, like, 3 years to release 3.
Yeah.
So, like, we took a step forward, but because of how slow they've been doing it, we took a step back. But now we have Discotech doing Black and Black RX, also doing Space Sheriff Gavin, Cutie Honey the Live, and now with their Nihon Nights. Oh! I did watch a Tokusatsu movie.
Oh.
Thank God we went down this rabbit hole at this recording. I watched Discotech's release of Legend of Dinosaurs and Monster Birds.
Oh, congratulations. How did you enjoy it?
Okay, so it's like one of the last Showa Kaiju movies that I haven't seen. So,
you've never seen it?
No, I never got the Media Blasters Blu-ray or DVD. So, like, that was one that was escaping me. It's a lot like, for me, Gunhead. Gunhead's the only Heisei Toho Kaiju Tokusatsu giant robot movie I haven't seen. So that's, like, eluded me this whole time. So, like, it's weird to watch because it's like this is the end of kind of an era for me. Because now I'm up to date with what's out. There's no more going back and watching Showa Kaiju movies for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So on one end, it was kind of a bittersweet because here I'm watching my last, like, unknown Showa Kaiju movie until, like, maybe Three Treasures gets released or Half Human somehow gets released or I mean, I gotta watch the Bermuda Depths, but that's a co-production, so it's not gonna be, like, as, like, close to home as something like Legend of Dinosaurs and Monster Birds.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, aside from the TV shows, but TV shows for me have always felt like it's not like how I grew up. I didn't grow up with the TV shows. I grew up with the movies. So, like, the TV shows feel like
their own separate thing.
They are. So I feel like I'm extending my Tokusatsu knowledge when I do that, not going back to, like, my roots.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bittersweet ending because now I'm like, I will never be able to watch really another Showa Kaiju movie. That has ended for me. And I think because that, I mean, I want to cover that movie, but I will say I enjoyed it because it was what I grew up with. Down, like, to a T. And somehow I appreciated it probably more now than I would have then because, like, yes, it has your stereotypes and your genre tropes of the times. But it's kind of nice. I'm kind of like, yes, I love this. It's no 54, but I'm like, I am 100% down for everything I'm seeing right now.
Yeah.
So, I did watch a Tokusatsu movie.
Well, once again, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I need to watch more.
Damn. I haven't done too much in terms of Tokusatsu since Death Cap. I rewatched Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla.
74?
No, sorry, the 93 one. Heisei.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
I didn't hate it.
I mean, the soundtrack is a bopper, so
the soundtrack is goated. I'll give it that.
It is. Ifukube is just a genius.
And I genuinely did not remember Kenji Sahara or Tadao Takashima being in the movie, so that was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a movie.
It is a movie.
It is definitely a good choice if you ever are doing something else and just want a movie in the background.
That's good to know. I might do that next time.
Because honestly, you could just be doing something and look up every 10 minutes and still get the entire plot.
This is true.
Which is not a compliment, but, it's nice to know.
This is true.
Outside of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, though, I also rewatched Kamen Rider the First from 2005.
The second attempt at remaking the original Kamen Rider? Or third or fourth?
Well, it's called the First, so I'm going to call it the First.
Well, wasn't Shin Kamen Rider Kamen Rider Shin Prologue like an attempt to remake the original?
Yeah,
and then
essentially.
Wasn't Zio and J both the same things too?
Sort of, yeah.
J was made because Zio failed.
Zeto, I think, was meant to be a TV show originally, I think.
Well, I remember hearing that Zio didn't perform as it was supposed to in rental sales, which is why they redid it with J a year later. And then J did better, but not good enough to warrant anything until the first, and then the first remade it, and then they made a sequel and it all failed, and now they're doing it again with Hideaki Anno.
Yeah. I mean, Kamen Rider the First is an interesting movie in terms of its reception from the general Kamen Rider fandom. I think most of the fandom kind of hates it. But, I don't know, man. I think it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. So,
isn't it more of a drama than an action?
It's an action drama. It's got this romance subplot in it, or not even a subplot, between Takeshi Hongo, Kamen Rider 1, Asuka Midorikawa, and then Kamen Rider 2 as well. And it falls so horribly flat. It is so goddamn funny. Every single scene. and then just for the right action, that's just entertaining. Because that's just that stuff's actually quite good in this film. All the suits look pretty good. And the stunt work is great. They actually use their bikes.
This is true. That's something most modern Kamen Rider can't say, right?
Barely.
That's Kamen Rider the First is on my list. Whenever Media Blasters releases them, I might break my rules of watching things in order just to watch the 5 movies, because the intro, those 5 just intrigue me so much that.
Oh, I think they're some of the most interesting Kamen Rider movies. Some are better than others, obviously, like Zeto, the GOAT. But I think this Kamen Rider the First and its sequel are really interesting movies, despite the fact that most of the fandom seems to hate both of them.
Yeah, I know I've only heard bad stuff about them.
The next in particular, people seem to absolutely despise. But, maybe it's my bias as a J-horror fan, but I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I feel like I watched a J-horror movie, too, recently.
Ah, so do I, actually. I've had this craving to watch a J-horror movie, and I think just today I finally did.
Was it Ring?
No. Although it did kind of remind me of Ring, in a way.
Yeah.
It even happened to have the same director.
Really? Because I know after Ring, originally Nakata wasn't going to do any more horror movies, but he ended up doing Ring 2, and then he stopped doing them again.
Yeah.
And then I feel like he went back into the genre after that, too.
Yeah, not too long after at that, even.
Yeah. I just can't remember what it was.
Did it happen to have a little girl in a yellow raincoat as the ghost?
No, it wasn't it. It wasn't. That isn't by Nakata. God, I'm trying to remember what it was I watched. That was a J-horror.
Could it have anything to do with Katakawa, by any chance? Oz
we
Company.
just said it wasn't Ring.
Well, Katakawa did some other horror films other than Ring.
It wasn't. It wasn't Pulse.
Like, for example, they did Ring 2.
They did do Ring 2, and they did Spiral, and they did Ring
Sadako
0.
3D.
Yeah, and didn't they? No, they didn't do any of the Ju-on. That was Nikatsu.
I mean, Nakatsu had some involvement in this film. At least I think they did. Maybe I'm wrong, but you know.
What film are you thinking of?
I was thinking of 2002's Dark Water, directed by Hideo Nakata.
You know that movie? I'm pretty sure I watched that. I'm pretty sure that's what I watched tonight.
Oh my god. Ain't that crazy?
Yeah, it's almost as crazy as the fact that I keep doing this stupid bit.
I know, right?
So yes, we are talking about the 2002 Hideo Nagata return to J-horror Dark
Nakata.
Water. What?
Nakata. It's a K,
not
a G.
Isn't it spelled Nagata? Nagata?
No, it's a K.
Is it a K?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
No.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Hang on.
Search up Hideo Nakata.
Nagata.
What? No, it's Nakata.
Dark Water. Hang on. Oh, wait. I want to say that some places cite it as Naga and some don't. Or maybe it's just a spelling error on some of them.
I mean, the Arrow Video Ring Blu-ray spells his name wrong, so...
Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because of the stupid Ring Blu-ray that calls it Ringu and yet has a whole bonus feature about how it's Ring and not Ringu.
I mean, hey, the UK version fixed that.
So stupid. So stupid.
Goofy.
So yeah, that's the movie we're talking about.
Whoa, isn't that crazy?
And just like Ring, it's an adaptation of the Koji Suzuki short story named Dark Water.
Well, specifically a short story collection named Dark Water.
True.
The actual story that was adapted into the film is called Floating Water.
This is true.
And now, is it allegedly based on Suzuki's real-life experiences in some regard?
Yes, I'm pretty sure his daughter almost drowned. Or it was a yacht. I remember him talking about how Arrow Video did an interview with him. Mm-hmm. And in the interview, he was talking about how fear has to be experienced to be felt, which was an interesting concept. He has a really interesting outlook on horror and fear. And
so is this in the Dark Water Blu-ray from Arrow?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm gonna need to listen to that because I'm actually curious on listening to an interview with Suzuki.
I was really interested by it because he used the metaphor of if you're on a yacht, it's built to like not capsize, but in the event of a capsizing, what happens is it doesn't float because the water will fill up the air pockets that are like preventing it from sinking. It'll fill those up and it'll just sink, and you are plummeting at hundreds of meters into the ocean. Mm-hmm. And because of that, like, once you have that experience, you build that fear. So people who have had that problem, if they see that in a movie, that will draw out fear in them.
Yeah.
Another, like, more common one that I can speak of from personal experience is, like, a car wreck. Mm-hmm. The idea of a car hitting you at 45 miles per hour on your door side, like, I was driving today. I was working. And as I was driving, it was a busy intersection, and I had to pull out a certain time. And, like, there was this car coming, and, like, I had room. But, like, I got really stressed and started hyperventilating just because I had the thought of, what if this car hits me? So, like, that fear came out because I've experienced it almost like PTSD.
I mean, it's interesting the way we, feel fear from media based on our own personal experiences. Because, like you can take something that inherently is, like, scarier just in all regards, but because if someone doesn't really have, like, a way to relating it to themselves, like, it's not going to scare them as much as something that they know what it feels like. So, like, let's say you got someone, like in a horror movie, let's just say you got a torture scene, 2 torture scenes, one where someone breaks your fingers, and one where they're just, like, cutting your arm off and all that. The one where they're cutting your arm off and all that is inherently should be more terrifying, right? Because that's a more painful experience. But it's usually just the breaking of fingers that gets people a lot more unnerved.
A great example of that is in the 2017 film Life. In it, one of the astronauts is, like, trying to, like, poke the tentacle monster. And the tentacle monster realizes that it can grab the hand.
Ah, yes.
And then it starts breaking each finger. And, like, the whole time he's screaming and, like, that, I really tensed up. And the part that really got me was they finally got him free, but his hand was completely crushed. Mm-hmm. So when his hand pulled out, it just, like, flopped.
Yeah.
And, like, that just made me feel so uncomfortable.
Was that Hiroyuki Sanada's character, out of curiosity?
No. No, it was not.
Because I remember him being in the movie.
Yeah, he died... I want to say he, like, got jettisoned out of the space station or something.
I don't remember. It's been too long since I saw the movie.
I know Ryan Reynolds' character eats the thing, and then it, like, kills him on the inside. And then Jake Gyllenhaal, like, dies of, like, no air, and then the girl dies because of the thing coming to Earth and, like, killing her.
I think it was the other way around. With
something
Jake
like
Gyllenhaal
that.
Being stuck creature on Earth, and her being sent into space.
Was
I'm
it?
Sure.
I don't remember. Sure. I just remember thinking, I don't like this movie. I remember thinking, it's Alien, but not as good.
It's okay, from what I remember.
But we're not talking about that movie.
Yeah, this isn't a review on Life.
But... Sorry, just the way you said that was like...
Yes.
0 out of 10. Wouldn't recommend Life. Everything goes to crap after, like, 5 minutes out of the womb.
And it's all downhill from there.
It is. And you get taxes, and then you get... Then you get, like, people, and then problems.
I mean, hey. You could just... With taxes, you could just commit fraud, and it'll be okay.
We here at Kaiju Conversation do not condone tax evasion or tax fraud.
We do, however, find it funny.
No comment. But going back on...
Yes.
So, like, Suzuki hones in on that, I think especially in Darkwater, because I think a lot of people know the idea of drowning.
Mm-hmm.
Which, at least in the movie, happens a lot.
Yeah.
The fear of drowning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the book also, from what... So I've started reading Darkwater. I have read the prologue and then the first story, which is what our film of today is based on. I have not gotten further. from what I understand, a lot of these stories are one of the central themes is that they're all set after the Japanese bubble economy had burst. So there's a lot of, just it's very reactionary to that. And there's it's not a big element in floating water, but it is there with why the building is not abandoned, but
run down.
Yeah, run down and all that. But yeah, so I'm sure some of the other stories probably go into that, and obviously they also have the central idea of water.
And at least in the film, the whole movie has this really gritty and run down feeling. Everything just looks worn down. Yeah, it does. And part of that too, I think, comes from the intense natural color grading. Not what the camera's picking up, but your natural colors, your browns, your greens, your kind of yellows. All of those are very prominent in the film, and it feels just very down to earth and dirty.
A lot of the color choices, from what I've been able to gather, seem to be intentional. I mean, some of them, like the water tower in the film, which is a motif throughout the film for certain reasons. That is intentionally brownish to give off a flesh-like look, for example. In the book, it's also described as being flesh-like.
That's gross. That's really gross. I mean, Suzuki does a great job at being really descriptive and kind of disturbing with his descriptions. When we talked about Ring, you brought up how in the book... Wait, did you read the book by this point?
No, I had not.
No, this was this conversation we've had off the podcast. But in Ring, the book, the video is 20 minutes long.
Yes.
And it goes into deep detail on what they're watching.
Yes. It is a phenomenal sequence that... Sorry, you're just unlocking memory there of that. Reading that is just so enthralling. It's kind of hard to put into words. God, I don't even know how to describe it outside of just telling you to read the damn novel.
But it's that's a prime example of Suzuki's detail. And
Suzuki his writing style it's almost like an objective look at his characters, as I think how David Callett described it. And I'm kind of inclined to agree with that from what I remember, just because there's this distance from the characters, but you can definitely put yourself in their shoes.
Right. Even Nakata, in his interview that Arrow Video conducted in 2016, he even brought up how Suzuki had a very different outlook on the world and how he wrote characters and how the world works.
Yeah, his characters are different people, particularly Ryuji and Ring.
So, but because of that, Nagata, and I feel bad because we're going to talk, I'm going to bring up a lot about Ring because Ring was discussed heavily in these bonus features.
Well, I don't think Dark Water is just such a hard film to separate from Ring.
Absolutely.
Cast, crew, all that. You can't really talk about Dark Water reasonably without at least mentioning Ring in it.
Right. And I feel like part of that too is because it was Nakata's return to horror. He essentially, after Ring 2, went off to do his own things. In the late 80s, he was able to attend a seminar between Wes Craven and the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Is that Tom Hopper?
Toby Hooper.
Toby Hooper. And in that seminar, they said, speaking to the audience, they said, do not direct more than 3 horror movies, because if you do, that will be all your life is.
Mm.
So Nakata didn't want to be a horror director. He actually did not like the genre of horror.
Mm-hmm.
But in preparation for Ring 2, and Darkwater, he did watch the Jello film. Gallo? The 1977 Jello film.
Oh, yeah. Suspiria.
Suspiria. Other ones he cited was The Omen, Exorcist, and Poltergeist.
Mm-hmm.
So he watched horror movies, but he didn't like them. There wasn't anything really interesting by them. He also cited Nakagawa's The Ghost Story of Yotsuya, one of the most famous Showa era horror films that really birthed the ghost genre. Another one he did was Jigoku in 1960.
Mm-hmm.
So Nakata cited those, and especially The Ghost Story of Yotsuya inspired Nakata's debut, which was Don't Look Up, which is what got him Ring. And partly why he got Ring was because Suzuki loved Don't Look Up. He, according in the interview, he told Toho, the distributor of Ring, you need to get this guy to do the film.
Mm.
Now, because he was an independent director, he had one title, and he was in the UK at this time trying to make a documentary. The odds of him not getting Ring were high. So Suzuki wrote him a letter and sent it to him saying, I want you to do this movie, like, you would be perfect for it. And Nakata said, I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to do this. And that was because he just wanted the money, because he wanted to make this documentary that he had been trying to produce for a while.
Yeah.
So he got the gig for Ring. Ring did super well. Spiral bombed.
Mm.
Then they got to do Ring 2.
Actually,
that did really
something
well.
funny? So Spiral bombed, right? But like because they released together, there's like Japanese theater records that like put Spiral in the top 10 alongside Ring of that year for box office. Which
Really?
I find funny. Yeah, because they combined the box office of both films for some reason.
Interesting. So, yeah, I mean that's kind of where Ring and Spiral and Ring 2.
I mean, not only that, Darkwater has a couple other Ring connections, which I find interesting to, like, even some of the other films that Nakata didn't direct. Like, for example, Spiral was directed by George Ida, who also wrote the 1995 TV movie of Ring.
Right.
But in 1997, George Ida had adapted Umenoshima Cruise, one of the short stories in Darkwater, into a TV show.
Really?
In 97. Yeah. And then another adaptation of Yominoshima Cruise was directed by Norio Tsuruda in 2007 for the Masters of Horror TV show. The episode was titled Dream Cruise.
Interesting. And Norio Tsuruda
He directed Ring 0.
Right. And he also, he was one of the people that helped, I believe it was helped Nakata get Don't Look Up. I know Tsuruda worked on the Scary Story stuff.
I think, yeah, he did. But I think he was the second choice to directing Ring. I could be wrong I could be misremembering that, but I think he was second choice for the producers.
I know Nakata cited him and the director of Evil Dead Trap, which his name escapes me right now, but he cited those two as kind of the spearheaders of the J-horror boom because of their work on the Scary Stories films and like Evil Dead Trap and this idea of gore. And because Nakata mentioned that by the late 1980s and 1990s, ghost story horror films had basically run dry. You couldn't do them anymore because, I mean, let's be real here, in this 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was done hundreds of times.
Yeah.
There are so many Ghost Cat movies out there. You could do like a ring box, or not a ring box set, an Arrow video box set of just Daiei Ghost Cat films. There's like a dozen. You could do so much. Like there's so many. Kuroneko, Ghost Story of Yotsuya. I'm not listing off a lot, but there are hundreds.
Lists off too.
Well, I said there's like a dozen from Daiei alone. Jigoku is another one that included ghosts. Ghost Story of Yotsuya like had 3 or 4 remakes within a small time frame. Kwaidan has sections of it that were ghost stories. So the idea of a ghost story had run dry. Norio Tsuruta comes around and kind of reinvents it. Enter Hideo Nakata, Don't Look Up, kind of a proto-Ring. If you watch Don't Look Up, which I haven't, but I've seen clips and I've researched the film enough to understand that a lot of that movie translated into Ring, which is partly why Suzuki wanted him to do Ring, was because of his work on Don't Look Up.
Yeah. And I mean, even a lot of Ring translates a bit into Dark Water as well.
Absolutely. And I think part of it, too, was Suzuki trusted Nakata. In the interview with Nakata, he mentions that there was 3 main things they changed from the novel. One was your 2 main characters to simplify the relationship.
Is this for Ring?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
For Ring, he simplified the 2 main characters for the relationship. He cut down the characters from the main characters from 5 to 3 to once again simplify the relationship, and changed the video just because there was no way they could explore the video with the narrative they had.
Yeah, not in the way the novel has it.
Right, and Suzuki, I think, loved that. I think he loved what Nakata did to simplify his story. I mean, clearly audiences did.
Yeah.
And this kind of led to Suzuki like happy to team up with Nakata again in summer of 2001. I believe they first started June 28th, 2001 on Dark Water. And from there it went on. Like at this point, everybody that worked on the film on Ring, I believe your writer, I wrote down some of your main people here. The writer, I don't have him written down, but he worked on Ring.
You've got the same producer that did The Grudge and all that type of deal.
Yes, he has done every American Grudge. He did all the Japanese Grudge films. I think he did some of the Death Note movies. He's done a lot of those films. Nakata, of course, doing Ring 2, the Ring 2, Death Note, I'll Change the World, and even the composer, Kenji
Kawai,
who worked on films such as The Red Spectacles and Stray Dogs, Mika Droid, Ghost in the Shell, both Ring films, Avalon, Assault Girls, Princess, Blade, both Kibakichi films directed by Tomaru Haraguchi, who did Death Kappa. He also directed Mika Droid. Death Note 1 and 2, which one of those was directed by Shusuke Kaneko. And the two Gantz films.
He did the Gamera 2015 short.
Mm-hmm. And then he also worked on Kamen Rider Build, Ultraman Nexus, and Ultraman Geed.
Oh, he worked on Nexus?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, damn. No wonder Nexus' score is so good.
And then another connection that Nakata has is he directed Death Note L Change the World, which was the third film in that live-action Death Note adaptations.
Yeah.
Which I believe the producer of Darkwater also produced that one, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the film is... Everybody on it basically almost worked on Ring.
Yeah.
People even mentioned how, compared to Ring, Nakata was a lot more comfortable because he had, I believe at this point, 5 films under his belt. He had Don't Look Up, Ring, Ring 2. I think he might have done the Ring 2. The American sequel?
Not by this point. That was like 2005.
Gotcha. But he had done...
came out before the American remake of Ring, actually.
Oh, that's right. It did by a few months. Yeah. He had the documentary that he'd been working on done. So yeah, this would have either been his 5th, 6th, or 7th project. So he was kind of seasoned. I mean, people like Quentin Tarantino, like he had Nakata in that 5-year period had done as many films as Tarantino has done his whole career. I don't know if that was a jab at Tarantino, but it was the closest comparison I had. So, I mean, at this point, Nakata was pretty comfortable. And I think we get a more stylized film because of that. And I if you want to, we can kind of now go into... We've been talking about leading up to the film, but now we can kind of talk about the film itself and kind of go from there.
Alrighty.
So, speaking of stylized, I kind of got that straight off the bat with your title sequence. It's really off-putting because of the murky water. It's so simplistic, and this film has a lot of simplistic stuff, but the style it has is what makes it creepy and off-putting.
Yeah. It's a very understated film, for lack of a better term, in just how it's shot and lit and everything to it, really. Nothing is really horribly pronounced, but like that really adds to the atmosphere, I'd say.
Right, exactly. It's not like Ring in the sense of Ring is very... It's pretty cut and dry with its style. I don't think Nakata had developed enough yet to create a stylistic movie.
Yeah.
But you really see...
I'd still say Ring is a bit understated in its own right, at least in like cinematography, but like you were not necessarily wrong there.
At least like in the look. I agree. Cinematography, it's there. Nakata's... His cinematography is always pretty simple, but it's still visually interesting enough to the point that you can't not look at the screen. Yeah.
And you still get some really good shots every now and again as well.
You do. One in particular I like, and this is jumping ahead, but it's where the girl who ends up missing on her walk home, specifically the almost wide shot of her walking near I'm gonna guess it's the coast while it's raining and shuns broad daylight. Like that looks really cool because of the color grading and the way it's the shots set up and the lighting. It's so off-putting that it works. It absolutely works.
Yeah, so should we start getting into the plot of the film?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We'll move on past our title sequence here. I love taking note of title sequences because I feel like that kind of, I go by I think it's Martin Scorsese. You have like 3 minutes to draw your audience in, and I feel like it immediately did that with the off-putting title sequence. But yeah, no, going into this, the film's underlying plot, I guess, is about a divorce and a child's custody.
Yeah, which is an interesting framing device, particularly when you consider that the short story had nothing to do with this.
It didn't?
No. It's mentioned that our main character, Yoshimi, had gone through a divorce, but it's only mentioned once, and it has no real effect on the plot outside of just why she's alone with it, why she's a single mother, you know?
Okay.
So I think it's interesting that they decided to expand on that and put that as sort of like a framing device of the story and for the emotional conflict specifically.
Right. And I feel like that also might add to the idea of Suzuki's, like, you can't be afraid unless you, like, can experience that. Because let's be real here. The idea of the proper Japanese family was pretty well degraded after the industrialization in the late 60s.
Yeah.
To my understanding, at least.
Yeah, from what I've heard as well. Same sort of deal.
So, and at least in America, in the 21st century especially, your statistics for couples staying married has decreased exponentially. More people are getting divorced now, or just not marrying now, than ever before. So, I think it's an interesting concept to touch on, especially for the kid element, which is the main focal point of the story, is how the kids feel.
Yeah.
The kids are what draws everything to its climax and the conclusion of this film. And maybe that's why the divorce was there, was to give the kid kind of this emotional arc throughout the story. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to jump ahead, but maybe that's kind of what they were going for.
Maybe. But yeah, so we're introduced to Yoshimi. Her and her husband are in a divorce, obviously, and due to this, she has moved out of her husband's house and is finding an apartment for her and her daughter. She finds one, gets there, finds out the superintendent of the apartment is a bit lazy, but it's getting renovation, so everything will be all good, right?
Obviously.
Yeah, everything's all good except for that ghostly little Mimiko bag, or Hello Kitty bag as it was in the book. Yeah.
Or the strange water stain in the main bedroom.
Yeah. Nah, that's obviously fine. House is just run down,
Of course.
The apartment.
The building is old and rickety. So stuff like that is to be expected.
Oh, they translated it the same in the Arrow release. Nice.
Sweet. So, yeah, from here we are introduced to kind of the abnormal behavior throughout the film. But it also doesn't... It's pretty tame, all things considered. They really use the water, like the wet spot on the ceiling to kind of narratively draw the story to the grand finale.
Yeah. I mean, the film is just... The vast majority of the runtime is the film building tension for that climax where the bubble of sort bursts.
This is true. So from here, we just kind of... We follow our main character try to basically rebuild her life post-divorce.
Yeah.
While her husband is... Yes. While her ex-husband is trying to find a way to win custody over the child.
Yeah.
So anything he can find, for example, he brings up with his lawyers that she went to therapy, correct? She went to therapy well over 10 years ago to try and say she's not mentally fit to raise the child, and that's what he runs with for the rest of the film pretty much is, you're not mentally fit to do this.
Yeah, and the film portrays him as a very cold and unsympathetic character as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And from there, it basically is just, it's a journey of her trying to build everything back while something is slowly making its way.
Yeah.
Almost as if she's so caught up in trying to prove something that she loses sight of the impending danger in front of her.
Mm.
She does notice it, however, and tries to work through it, but it never seems to... It never ends. She never can get there because she's so busy trying to talk to her lawyer, prove she's not crazy, get her daughter to school, be a mother, start a new job. Because she's doing all this stuff, it's not like Ring where your main characters drop everything they're doing, put their jobs on the line to figure this out and save their kid.
Yeah. This film has a mystery like Ring, but it's very much more of a background element compared to Ring. I mean, in the novel, or in the short story, it's not as much of a focus as, say, the mystery of Ring, which is the central driving force of everything. But even then, it's still more of a focus than here, where our story is framed around a divorce.
Right. It's kind of nice because when I brought up Howling Village in our last recording, I brought up how it just hit every single J-horror trope.
Mm-hmm.
The nice thing about Darkwater is, while yes, it definitely hits your J-horror tropes, and it there's a fine line of you feel like you can see where this is going based off of Ring and whatnot.
Yeah. But
Suzuki wrote the story in a way that it's just different enough that you don't fall into that Ring-like story, but you also don't hit that oh, this is trying to be Ring, but different.
Mm-hmm.
And I give props to both Nakata and Suzuki for that.
There are surface level similarities to Ring, but yeah, I'll agree with you that overall it's still... It'll never be separate from Ring, but it doesn't just feel like another Ring.
Right. Which is something a lot of J-horror films started to suffer from, was it's like Ring, it's like Ju-on.
Which is why the genre very quickly died out, essentially right after it had become popular,
Right. Yeah, and it was a few years after Darkwater. I feel like we should add is Darkwater was...
I mean, some people would argue it died around the year or the year after of Darkwater as well, depending on
I would argue 2005, personally. By then you had your Darkwater and The Grudge out, and...
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit of a stretch to say it was dying when Darkwater and Ju-On: The Grudge came out, but like, I think it's a bit more reasonable to say once One Missed Call had come out, that's sort of when it started. The interest would have started waning.
Yes, especially when you think about the idea of One Missed Call being a parody of the genre, which we just covered a parody of the kaiju genre, and in that film, in that recording, I brought up how once you have a parody of a genre, the genre's kind of run its course because you've hit all of its tropes.
Yeah.
And, once you get to that point, you either have to reinvent it or it just dies.
Yeah.
And that was 2004, I believe.
2000. It might have premiered in 2003. I don't remember. I know at some point it had its first released in 2003, but maybe maybe full release was 2004.
Gotcha. And keep in mind, you also had Cairo or Pulse in, was that 05?
Yes.
Which that was another reinvention of the genre in air quotes, but it was met with poor reviews. And then you had Tormented 3D, Shock Labyrinth 3D, these films by Takashi Shimizu and whatnot that just never worked. I think there's a 2009 Nakata film titled Kaidan. But Darkwater was definitely one of the last films before the genre hit the fan, I would say.
Yeah.
Because of that story, and as the story continues, we get to see kind of the building. What I find interesting is how your main characters are falling into the same problem that the problematic character of the story was in. But it also, because of that, raises questions for me that I'm going to ask you once we get to the end here, how you interpreted it, because I would like some clarification on how the ending is to be perceived.
Okay.
But I mean, did you want to add anything here about the kindergarten stuff? And I mean, I feel like the film's pretty the story doesn't do a whole lot. It's pretty much the same stuff.
It's a very simple story. Even I mean, obviously it's based on a short story, so it's going to be much simpler than, say, Ring, which is a 200 or 300 page novel that has a lot of moving elements to it. But yeah, no, it's Darkwater's a lot more about the atmosphere, and I don't want to say it's about it's like Ring, but about the characters, because that's Ring was very much also about its own characters, but Darkwater, I'd say, gives us more time on the central relationship specifically between the mother and the daughter. Whereas while Ring does have its moments with Ryuji and Reiko Asakawa together, like that scene when they're in the inn on the island, it doesn't give as much time to it.
Right. And I feel like with Ring's a little bit more of a darker outlook, because the film literally ends with our main character asking her father to take his life for her son.
There is the Ring's ending is a lot more existentially terrifying than Darkwater's is.
The idea of Ring is it's the idea of the spiral, that everything will come back around,
which is a central theme throughout all of the Ring novels. even as far as they go wild with Loop, with the whole simulation aspect, that has an element of that spiral, with how the simulations are sort of explained to be happening.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Sadako's curse was birthed from exploiting humans and experimenting on them.
In the novels.
Like,
Suzuki's...
Not in the novels,
in the movie.
In the novels. Right.
Because there's another origin in the novel.
Like, in the films, the Nakata especially, like, just downright establishes humans only do things humans want to do because they have a motive for it.
Yeah. I mean, from what I understand, the characters of all the stories in Dark Water are very selfishly driven. So while I think Floating Water, this story, is probably the least selfish character. I say it probably has the least selfish characters, but I haven't read the other stories. That's the impression I'm getting.
Gotcha. So to kind of wrap up the bulk of the story, essentially we go back and forth with our main character. She tries to get her new job. She gets the new job. Nothing else really comes of that. The daughter goes to school. Eventually she runs into the ghost and she drowns. She doesn't die, but like she gets choked up with water. Yeah. And then it's just the lawyer, which I really like the lawyer in this film.
Yeah, he's not in very much, but he's really cool for what little he's in. He's just so likable.
He is. Towards, like, I would say the last quarter of the film, he kind of comes in and Scooby-Doo's everything. Because she's, like, freaking out that she's going to lose her daughter, so she's about to move, and he's like, if you do that, they're going to, like, use that against you, so let me look into this.
I mean, it's interesting how when he's introduced, that is where the film completely diverges from the short story, because the short story ends with Yoshimi just moving out and running away from the house with Ikuko is the daughter's name.
Really?
Yeah. It ends with him leaving the building.
Huh.
And
so that 40
whole...
minutes of this movie is basically new.
Yeah, well, roughly about 40 minutes, I'd say. I mean, probably like the first 5-10-ish minutes are original as well.
Okay. Well, because the whole divorce thing, yeah.
Yeah, and just seeing her move into the apartment as well.
Gotcha.
I think, because if I remember right, it starts with her having just moved in.
Gotcha.
Okay. Which is funny, because Spiral was kind of the same, where there's like a whole, like, about half the movie or so, 40-ish minutes or so, is just original content.
Interesting. But, so he comes in, and she's like, well, this happened. So, like, they go into the apartment. He points out the leak, and he's like, you guys haven't done anything about this.
Yeah.
And, like, he calls them out, and they both, like, are like, crap, he's right. They then go up to the room above. And the whole reason this happens is, like, the night before, the daughter goes missing after she takes a trip up to the top because of all the water leaking, sees that the water tower is leaking, and she sees somebody. She goes down to check on her daughter. Her daughter's missing. She hears footsteps, goes up to the level above her to where the missing girl used to live, finds out the door's unlocked. The whole room is, like, flooded. She finds the daughter and leaves.
Yeah.
So the lawyer comes in, shows that they haven't done anything about the leak. They're like, we'll do that. We'll fix that. They do. They find out that the room above them was unlocked. They call that out. They see that it's a disaster, so, like, they remodel it. He explains how there could be footsteps up there. Then he goes up to the tower and tries to rationalize how she saw the mystery person, and then calls out the manager of the apartment complex for not having the water tower routinely checked.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, the bag is probably just kids being stupid. So, like, he makes her feel so much better.
Which is funny, because in the story, she's the one who rationalizes all this in her head.
Oh.
He's not even a character in the book.
So, okay, so he's kind of written to give the mother a bit of a dynamic of, like, this back and forth internally on, am I crazy, am I not crazy? Like, am I going to lose my kid, am I not going to lose my kid?
Yeah, I suppose so.
I also realized we haven't talked about, like, the main problem, which is, like, how the ghost exists.
I mean, it is a background element, as I said.
It is. Do you want to explain how the ghost exists?
So our ghost of this film is Mitsuko Kawai, a roughly 5 or 6 year old girl who had drowned not in a well, but in a water tank on the rooftop of the apartment complex. She lived with her mother and possibly father, maybe.
I feel like it's in the movie established that the mother was raising her, the father left.
And then the mother left, and then she drowned?
Or she was absent. She was an absent mother, I think. Because the mother moved out after she went missing.
But then they said something about, like, the father coming back.
I'm not sure. I don't remember. I just remember that, like, in the same kindergarten that our main character's daughter goes to, Mimiko, right?
Mitsuko. The bag says Mimiko, though.
Gotcha. Mitsuko drew a little drawing, and it said, was it Mama Come Back, like the mom's name? I'm pretty sure.
Maybe it's maybe different translation on my DVD, but my DVD said Mitsuko Come Back. So I thought it was like one of the kids who was friends with Mitsuko just drew it or something.
Oh, wait, wasn't it? Because it was about how her daughter was acting strange and she drew that. Right?
Oh, was it? Oh.
I'm pretty sure because the principal pulled the mother aside and said she's been acting really weird and this happened with one of our kids before, and then it lingered on that image with the translation.
I can't remember if Ikuko was the one who drew that or not. I can't remember if the movie called that to attention or not specifically.
The way I understood it, the main character's daughter, she was put in the same situation that Mitsuko was, which is why they were the ones being haunted.
Yeah.
Because, she went missing. It was because her mother didn't pick her up for kindergarten, something that our main character did frequently because she's trying to do her job and all that. She went home one day, to sit at the...
While there was also some cleaners working on the water tank.
They cleaned it. She went up there, went looking at it.
Something
Don't
like
know
that.
Why.
Dropped her red Mimiko bag in there.
Went to go for
grab it and then fell in.
And the rest is history.
So in a flashback, which... in a vision, that was given to Yoshimi in the film, which I thought was interesting. Just thinking back to Ring, because it's very similar to something that happens in Ring, where Ryuji and also Asakawa get a vision of the event where Sadako's mother gets labeled as a fraud, and Sadako ends up killing one of the reporters there.
Right.
Which is...
I felt like That was partially explained, though, because of Ryuji's...
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that necessarily. I just find it interesting how both of Nakata's films utilize a vision to help the characters get this element of the story, rather than, say, in both the Rings novel and the short story, where it's more the characters just figure it out themselves through investigation, or in Yoshimi's case, just curiosity and asking the superintendent some questions.
Right. And I will say one of the flashbacks I think is interesting, because it is our ghost, I guess, haunting her with the knowledge. Is that how you would describe it?
Pardon?
Our main character, the reason she gets these visions is the ghost giving her haunting her with the knowledge.
I guess it's a little. I think it's less justified than in Ring, where Ryuji was actually a psychic in the film,
right?
For that, but yeah,
it is a little weird because she's trying to figure it out, but you can also tell she kind of doesn't want to. I will say that is probably the weird aspect of this film is, does she want to figure out what's going on? Does she just want to leave? Why is she...
I mean, in the novel, or in the short story, she had she sort of had a morbid curiosity where it wasn't really... She knew it wasn't her business, but she also was curious about it.
Right.
So maybe that's what they were going for here, and it just didn't translate as well, perhaps.
Maybe. It could be that. Either way, one thing I also wrote down that you brought up was this film frequently has a real dreamlike feel to it. There's obvious moments where it's the flashbacks, it's okay, this is a dream or a flashback, but there's other moments throughout the film that the lens kind of has that weird glare to it that's this almost feels nightmarish, you don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Which I think adds to that style, and almost that feeling of you can't get out of this situation, because she can't. If she does, she basically loses everything she's working towards.
Yeah. I mean, even with her wanting to move out, as the lawyer says, sure, you can do that, but it's not going to look good for your case if you do that.
Right. Right, exactly. And it's kind of this feeling of you shouldn't do it, but you have to do it to get what you want.
Yeah.
It's almost like that you have two options, and one's really, really bad, but the other is somewhat bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's she can't win. That's a typical J-horror trope, is the idea of your main character can't win no matter what they lose, something that Ring and its sequels cover very well.
Mm-hmm.
Is once you're taken, you're screwed no matter what. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or Ju-on. Ju-on is perfect for that.
Oh, yeah. Ju-on and Spiral.
Yeah. No matter what, you're screwed. That's Japanese horror in a nutshell.
Bro, at least the Ring movie gives you an option, and the first book give you an option for survival. Spiral's just no, that ain't working even this time around.
Yeah. It's not like your typical American horror where if you're the good guy or you're the virgin,
just kill Michael Myers.
None of that happens. If Halloween was made in Japan, after shooting Michael Myers and looking, he disappeared, but then would be behind them and stab them both at the same time.
I mean, Michael Myers usually does do that, so...
Well, in the original, the 1978 movie.
Sure. still disappeared, though.
This is true. So then at the end, she goes searching again because everything happens again. Mm-hmm. And it's basically like she's at the well in Ring. She almost has it figured out. She finally finds out that the last time it's been cleaned was the day she went missing.
Yeah.
And before she can go up and what I would guess is like grab the corpse and like free the spirits. Like that's what I think would happen if the story ended on that positive note. Somewhat like what Sadako did. They flip it and she gets scared by the water tower getting punched. Almost like she doesn't want to be freed. She wants to carry this curse and punish the next line.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out that the daughter is trying to stop the water, and Mitsuko grabs the daughter, drowns her. Our main character, she comes in, finds her passed out on the floor, picks her up, runs her out of the apartment, tries to get her out of the building. The elevator,
not the daughter.
Yeah, the elevator starts flooding, and the elevator breaks. She's looking at the door. It opens. We are expecting the ghost to appear, right? Well, it's her daughter.
Yeah.
And then Kawaii is revealed, which is pretty cool. The first time I watched that, I remember thinking, what the heck is this thing?
I mean, the funny thing is, on my transfer of the film, you can't really see any of the face.
Oh.
So I could not tell what she actually looked like when I was watching the film.
I feel like that would do it justice because, admittedly, the effects in this film are not good.
They're fine for what they are.
I mean, the CGI between the elevator that we see after this scene and the punches looks awful. The compositing is not there. And, like, because I'm pretty... It was an actress in makeup for Kawaii. She looks weird. I don't think it's as effective as, like, Sadako.
No.
Or even, like, Kayako.
No, but those are very, very simple but very effective designs, to be fair.
Right. And I almost feel like Kawaii's not meant to be the scary part. It's supposed to be the tension prior. Yeah. Because when she appears, she just says, Mama!
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, goes to choke her.
Yeah.
And then from there, she realizes that all Kawaii has been looking for is her mother, and she fits the bill, so she disowns her daughter to go for Kawaii to save her daughter. And the elevator goes up, the daughter tries to, like, catch her, and she disappears into the water with Kawaii.
Yeah.
Then 10 years later, it fast forwards, kind of like Ju-on, except this time it's clarified. And we see a teenage version of our daughter back in the city that she was in kindergarten. We find out she doesn't remember anything, really.
Yeah.
She's been living with her dad the whole time. And she finds the building. It's all abandoned, run down. They go investigate, or she goes to investigate, goes to the room, finds it perfectly intact. And then out of nowhere, her mother appears. Like, she hasn't aged a day, and they talk like everything's okay. And then Kawaii appears in the background. She senses Kawaii, looks back, she's gone, and then she looks and her mother's gone.
Yeah.
And the last line is, her mother was always here defending her.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I have a question. So does that mean that her mother always loved her and she always wanted what was best? Or does it mean that Kawaii was going to kill her, so her mother took her life to save her, and the reason that she saw her in that building is because she's still in that building, keeping Kawaii from finding her and taking her life?
I mean, neither of those are really incorrect. I mean, how I saw it was, so the mother obviously sacrificed herself to be Mitsuko, to substitute as Mitsuko's mother, because Mitsuko was enraged by, her own mother's negligence.
Right.
And so, obviously, to protect, for Yoshimi to protect her own daughter, she had to become that and has to stay in that role for seemingly forever. And just watch over, I guess.
See, I don't know, there's something about that ending that just feels weird.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it leaves it too open?
I mean, to be honest, J-horror endings that's kind of a trope in J-horror in of itself, with the curse being still in some form open by the end.
Right. I guess it's just the fact that, like, at the end of Ring, it's obvious, like, the videotape has to be shared for people not to die.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of Ring 2, you find out that...
Oh, I'm laughing in novels.
At the end of Spiral, you find out that Sadako is just going to take over the whole world. And achieves that and marries Ryuji.
Oh, the movie did not do that justice.
Yeah.
It does not.
In Ring 2, you find out no matter what, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
In Ring 0, you find out that the curse is born. In Ju-On, I've only seen 2 of them, but at the end of both of them, it's no matter what, like,
you walk into that house,
you're screwed. It's the same thing every
One
time.
missed call.
Like,
you get that call.
you die, no matter what. Pulse. If you go into the red room, you die. So, like, for this one, it's
Pulse.
like, I don't blame you. But, like, Dark Water is so weird and unique because of that. Like, you can go into the building, you don't die. You can be, like, attacked by the ghost, but you don't die.
Yeah.
You can go to the kindergarten and not die. You can drown, but still come back and not die. Like, it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good because, like I mentioned, like, J-horror became very generic. And Dark Water is the exception to that genericness by this point.
Mm-hmm. Although it still does obviously feed into some of those tropes. Similar beats, I should say, to Ring.
Right. And then I just think the ending is, like, really depressing.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a few, like, those few things that just
it's definitely a somber ending.
Mm-hmm. So, it just, I don't know. Dark Water is weird, but that's not a negative thing.
Yeah.
And then she walks out of the building, and she walks off screen. It fades out, and the credits roll. Do-do-do-do. So from here, Dark Water was one of a handful of J-horror films to get American remakes with Jennifer Connelly in this one.
Yeah.
It also received a dub by ADV, who also did the dubs for the Gamera Heisei trilogy
ADV
and a handful of others. Mm-hmm. and the film, I think, has gone down as one of the more popular J-horror films of the time. I think it is hit a status that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not quite as recognized as Ju-on or Ring, but it's probably one of the next things to that.
Right. It's kind of like Pulse, I would say. Pulse and Darkwater hit kind of a similar status of like they're unique, but they only were one-offs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Pulse had more of a franchise, obviously.
In America.
Did it not get any Japanese sequels?
I don't believe so. I think it just got the American remake, and then that got 2 sequels somehow.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was weird. But I think Nakata really shines through overall with this story. He also really wanted his actors to be very subtle.
Yeah.
The little things mattered in this film, and I think it's obvious because it is such a basic story, but with a lot of thought put in, that it makes it more of an engaging story that once you get latched into, you want to see it all the way through.
Oh, it's a compelling story. The movie does a good job in establishing its central relationship and giving you reason to care.
Right.
Interestingly enough, there is also another, not an adaptation of this story specifically, but of one of the other stories in the novel, a story called Adrift, currently in pre-production.
Really?
From America.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Darren Aronofsky, director of The Whale, is currently in pre-production for an adaptation of Adrift, starring Jared Leto of all people. This never came to be, unfortunately, but George Romero was also meant to adapt one of the other stories.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about the cast, and I just wanted to bring up a few people that I saw appear in other tokusatsu works.
Yeah.
Meiko Asayo? She was the teacher. She also appeared in Tokyo Gore Police.
Oh. Sorry, I was like, who is this actress you're talking about?
Yeah.
I don't remember her in Tokyo Gore Police, but nice. I mean, a few of these cast members have been in a decent few things. I mean, Hitomi Kuroki, the lead star, was in Ring, the Final Chapter TV series, so another Ring connection there.
She was also in Kamen Rider Decade.
Huh.
And she was in the Toho-produced 20th Century Boys trilogy. Or she wasn't in Kamen Rider Decade. She was... I was looking at the other actress, never mind. But Hitomi was in the 20th Century Boys trilogy.
Yeah. Her lawyer, Shigemitsu, was also in not the Final Chapter, but was in Spiral, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was a detective, like midway through, like when Asakawa and Yoichi are just found dead.
Mm-hmm.
He's a detective investigating them. Isao Yatsu is the owner of the superintendent.
Yes.
And he was in Ju-on the Grudge, but...
Both of them.
Yeah, but he was the old man who was like signing to going peekaboo to Toshio.
Mm-hmm.
But interestingly, and I found this out and I was like, oh my god, he was the voice of Ultraman Jack.
He was.
And he also voiced some monsters in Kamen Rider.
Mm-hmm. He was also in Ring 2.
No, that's the other guy. Oh, or actually...
No. Yeah, he was.
Maybe. I don't remember.
I did my research. He was in Ring 2.
I know the other. I know the ex-husband was in Ring 2.
He was. Yes,
he was. Akira.
He was. He was in the ex-husband.
Yeah, the ex-husband.
Yeah. He was also in Kashern K20 Goemon in the live-action Full Metal Alchemist movie.
Okay.
But I also wanted to bring up Isao Yatsu also was in Rebirth of Mothra. And the Hideo Nakata directed Death Note L Change the World.
Isao Yatsu. Who was that? Oh wait, no. Sorry.
The manager.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the realtor, Tokai? T-O-K-U-I? Tokui? He was in Zebra Man, I Am a Hero, and Ultraman X.
Oh, damn.
And then the little girl, Ryo Kano, was in 10 Nights of Dreams, Bokuenger, the Super Sentai series, and she was the one in Kamen Rider Decade.
Oh, okay.
So, quite a few actors that appeared in other tokusatsu works.
Yeah.
However, we need to see... I couldn't find any connection. Every movie so far this year, after Shin Ultraman has had a connection to Shin Ultraman, I could not find one for Dark Water.
What connection do we have to Dark Water? I don't think I found one either. Have we finally broken this chain?
I think we have.
Damn.
And another thing we broke was there was no way I could complain about Godzilla vs. Kong in this episode.
Oh, well, that's not stopping you.
This is true, but like nothing naturally happened. The only thing we continued was something that we've...
I've got the natural connection to Godzilla vs. Kong. This film has direction. So, we're already a step above.
This is true. And this film was shot at Nikatsu, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Which Death Kappa was co-produced by Nikatsu. So, there we go. No, but not Death Kappa. Dark Water, you can only be connected to Shin Ultraman through another movie connection. So we have broke 2 of our running gags, but we brought the Ring one back. This time in
Ring was back in
full force. Like Ring was at least a third of this episode.
I swear, every other thing we said was ring this.
So we brought back that from our first horror month, but
to my joy.
Yes. We were doing pretty good. Like you weren't able to bring it up unless we had an actor that appeared in like a Sadako film. But
yeah,
now
like the
we
husband
are
of this one.
Yeah. So here we are, ending some of our gags and returning to one of them. So I want to ask this question simply because both were directed by Nakata.
Yeah.
Which one's better, Ring or Dark Water?
Ooh. You see, had you asked me this question some time ago, I probably would have said Dark Water. But having seen Ring more, I like the story of Ring a lot. It's just a story I really enjoy. So for Ring, it's interesting where I think the book is better than any of the films, but I still think Hideo Nakata's Ring is one of the best horror films I've seen. Particularly after watching it sometime after we did our episode, where I really came to absolutely love it. Whereas Dark Water, I think I think Dark Water is fantastic. I think the film is better than at least the short story. I don't know about the full novel, but I like this adaptation a lot more than I did the short story, which I thought it's not like the worst that Suzuki has written. I think the first story in Birthday, which is the last of the original Ring novels, was just kind of there. But I still think both Floating Water and that first story in Birthday are still decent. Like, I like them both. But yeah, I don't know. I think both Ring and Dark Water are great, but I like Ring more. No bias,
Fair enough.
No bias at all.
See, I agree with you on I prefer Ring over Dark Water. But that's simply because I feel like I find myself going back to Ring more because of the ideas within Ring. There's a lot more going on in it.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, Ring is just such an iconic film.
It's a classic.
But like enough where it's got, even if it's recognized more for its American counterpart, it's still got that international recognition, where it's easier to make reference to The Ring than, say, Dark Water 2005.
Right. Because Dark Water 2005 has become basically irrelevant.
It's
like when you look up
this.
Right, when you look up Dark Water, it comes up with a 2017, I think, Mark Ruffalo film instead. Like the idea of Jennifer Connelly's Dark Water is basically it fell into the ranks of like the One Missed Call remake or the Pulse trilogy or Rings, or even like Grudge 2 or Grudge 3.
I mean, from what I understand, it's nowhere near as reviled as like any of those.
Right.
But like it actually, I think there's a fair lot of people who like it, but like the thing is, frankly, you're probably not going to hear it from if you're gonna hear of a film, you're probably going to hear of it because of the original.
Correct.
Rather than it on its own.
Yeah.
Whereas The Ring stood on its own success-wise.
Despite, and I think partially that's because it almost was a beat-for-beat remake. Like, you can't, besides The Grudge, you can't get much truer of an adaptation than The Ring. I will, like, I intend on watching Pulse and One Missed Call and Dark Water and the other Grudge films just to see.
From what I hear, Dark Water is very the remake is pretty accurate to the film. It's just it came too late.
Gotcha.
That's the impression I've gotten, because the Dark Water remake came out in 2005. So like that sort of first wave of The Ring and The Grudge had already hit.
Right.
So it was just everyone was sort of, all the American studios were sort of just riding off that wave.
Right. And I mean, at one point, that was the only thing keeping J-horror alive, was the idea of an American remake. And with like the coming of One Missed Call and the Pulse sequels and the Grudge 3, that died. Like, they became schlocky, Z-grade, like almost, I mean, for Pulse at least, and I think the Grudge 3, it was straight to video. It didn't work. It didn't work.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, America tried to bring it back in 2017 and 2018 with Rings and The Grudge, but The Rings bombed so hard that Paramount canceled
Friday the 13th, R.I.P.
an American franchise. They canceled it because they're like, no, this isn't going to work. And then, from what I've heard, The Grudge 2018 just came out and says,
that film,
nobody.
It's literally a film that most people who have seen it, including myself, don't remember what happened in it.
I own it, but I still got to watch The Grudge 2 and The Grudge 3 before I can watch The Grudge, because I know it's a pseudo-sequel to the others.
Not really. Its only relation is actually The Grudge 2004.
Cool.
But, like... that even then, it has almost nothing to do with it. Bar, like, one or two scenes.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, either way, like you brought it up pretty well, is the idea that by this point, J-horror had run its course.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, this was around the time Kamen Rider stopped using horror, bar Kamen Rider the Next, obviously. So that's another argument you could have for when J-horror maybe was really dying, was around that 2003-2004 point.
Mm-hmm. And, it's unfortunate because after that, everybody, because Nakata worked on stuff, Shimizu worked on stuff, Kurosawa's worked on stuff, Miike, who kind of came in late to the game, but kind of, in a way, I think reimagined that torture cinema of the late 80s.
Yeah.
It just... The only one that rose above all of those was Miike, but that's because he was writing off of Audition and Ichi the Killer the whole time.
I mean, Miike also has never really been bound specifically by just one genre as well.
Right.
Because say what you will about Miike, he's known more or less for, say, just a horror genre, rather just having a crazy style.
Right. I was going to say he's more known for just extreme cinema, no matter what that may be.
Yeah.
Which is something Ryue Kitamura could have been, but then he fell into that trap of just horror.
Mm-hmm.
And now his works are basically ignored.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
I mean, from what I understand, a lot of his films aren't even particularly wild anymore. Those post-2000 films are just more tame and, for lack of a better word, generic, frankly.
And that very well could just be after Versus that didn't seem to blow over too well.
Mm-hmm.
People...
Maybe.
Well, people claimed that Final Wars was a war crime against Godzilla.
They're wrong.
I agree. But stuff like that, like the whole push Kitamura had for extreme cinema died pretty quick because nobody supported him on that. And maybe it's because his idea of extreme cinema just... Miike isn't insane. He's beautifully crazy. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it. Like,
nor do I.
Kitamura's a hot mess, while Miike's like this weird... It's like the beauty behind the madness.
I suppose that's one way of putting it.
Sure. But, yeah, I mean, back to... I don't even remember how we got on this little tangent.
That's a good question. Neither do
I. I guess it was just establishing how Darkwater was kind of the beginning of the end in a way.
Mm-hmm.
For a multitude of things, whether it be the American adaptations or just J-horror in general.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say J-horror is done, especially on the podcast. There are plenty of titles to cover still. We haven't even touched Koichi Kurosawa. There's still a handful of Ring films to cover.
A few more than a handful.
Well, what's available stateside?
Right.
Because all we have access to is Spiral, Ring 2, Ring 0, and Sadako 3D so far.
I mean,
I'd like to see more.
I mean, Sadako vs. Kayako technically as well.
Yeah. Technically. We still have a few...
isn't it technically?
This is true. We've got 2 Ju-On films plus Ju-On Origins.
Oh, right. You don't get those UK Blu-rays, Mr. E.T.
I know.
Mr. Funny Elijah Man.
I'm disappointed. I was so excited, and my excitement
I
turned
forgot
into
that was a UK exclusive, and you're pedantic. I forget that.
I am. Thank you so much, Rex. I am pedantic.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
Disappointing.
I know. I'm a disappointment. I get reminded that every day. Sorry, my inner Rex came out there for a second.
Oh. Well, at least he acknowledges where it comes from. Glad to learn nothing off on you.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we've probably talked for about the runtime of the movie. So once again, we did have about 30 minutes of pre-log, and so, it's about the runtime of the movie, roughly, a little bit, a little less. A little shorter episode than we have been having, but that's kind of a good thing, because, those 3-hour episodes were kind of killer.
I mean, this recording at least ain't far off 3 hours, so it's still going to kill me.
This is true.
Oh.
But we can go ahead and wrap things up here.
Yes, please.
We have a very busy schedule ahead of us, so don't be afraid. There will be more kaiju and tokusatsu right around the corner. I'll just say this, we have had to plan recordings ahead of time because we got to make sure we can get everything we have planned done. So stay tuned for next month. Next month you're gonna be getting quite a good amount of Kaiju Conversation. With that being said, Rex, why don't you tell the lovely listeners where they can find you if they enjoyed your voice and all of your knowledge on the Ring franchise and Koji Suzuki and Hideo Nakata.
Gladly. Well, dear listener, you can find me on YouTube at Rexino, on Twitter at Rex_Xenomorph, and on Instagram, Rex_Xeno. If you want to see some of my writing on Tokusatsu, then check out the Tokusatsu Network.
And with that, I'll go ahead and link myself here. Hi, I'm Elijah. You can find me on Twitter at ET13 Productions, on Instagram at ET13 Productions, or on YouTube at ET13 Productions. If you want to read my writing, check out KaijuRamenMedia.com, where I post web articles, and check out Kaiju Ramen Magazine, a quarterly magazine that I manage, and I write articles for. The most recent issue 8, I conducted an interview with Kaiju Kim on Kaiju YouTubing. I've also written articles on topics such as Godzilla, the Hindi Kaiju movie, Zebra Man, the history of Godzilla and Kong fighting, Daimajin, anime Godzilla, and a few other topics. You can also find some of my work on GodzillaMovies.com. Not a lot, but a little bit. Just a little bit of soy. Enough to read my content and go,
oh my God.
Oh boy. If you want to find my personals, I'll let you look for that. It's easy, pretty easy. And I'm going to take this moment. I do this all the time. I don't mean to just be like promoting my own stuff, but I have 2 exciting things to briefly talk about. One, I have become a Rondo-nominated writer for Giant Bug Cinema, A Monster Kid's Guide. I brought this book up when we covered Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and I have found out recently that I am now a award-nominated writer for that book. If you want to find out how to... Thank you. I woke up and it was there, and I was like, oh, this is different. I didn't wake up expecting this. So if you want to help me become a Rondo award-winning writer, here's what you can do to help that. Voting has started, so you can support Giant Bug Cinema by emailing taraco@aol.com and casting your vote. You select a nominee from each category on the ballot, which you can find on rondoaward.com, and then just type in your name in the nominations you vote for. Write Giant Bug Cinema in there under Best Book of the Year, and that will help us get the votes and potentially win. I would greatly appreciate that if you guys helped that. I'd love that. That'd be an interesting thing to put on my resume. Was not expecting that yet. Besides that, I would like to also announce, and I haven't told Rex about this, so Rex is finding out this too. I, for the last few G-Fests, I've been solely focusing on just going, buying stuff, and that's it. This upcoming G-Fest, I am hopefully going to be attached to a couple panels representing my Kaiju Ramen media team, and I have decided this year I'm returning after entering twice in 2018 and 2019. I will be entering to the amateur video contest with a brand new short film, all original, and the title of it is going to be SOS Seek Safety. I don't want to reveal too much about the short film. I don't want anybody getting any bright ideas, but I'm really interested in what people think of this. I'm kind of pulling from some of my past works to kind of create this new idea. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if I can take home a winner or not. And on top of that, I guess I am still working on my full-length feature film titled Boxed In. As I mentioned, I shot some more footage tonight, and it's going pretty well. But enough of me talking about myself. As for the podcast, what is important, don't forget to rate us on iTunes. That boosts our ratings and helps us get recommended to more people just like you. I'm going to take a quick gander at our Apple Podcast page to see if anybody has left us a review. They have not. We are still sitting at a 3.1. If you guys could help bring that up by giving us a 5-star rating, that'd be greatly appreciated. Beyond that, if you don't have an Apple device, which I don't blame you, I don't I am podcasting on a MacBook Pro. I'm not a liar. I just refuse.
I think that's an Apple device, bro.
I think it is too. But everything else I use is not an Apple device. You can rate us on Spotify. I swear to God, it's all not Apple. But you can rate us on Spotify. That's a new thing they can do. And they also have a Q&A where you can say if you like the episode or not. If you want to leave us feedback, that's another great way. If you want to stay up to date with all things Kaiju Conversation related, tweet us and follow us on Twitter at KAIJU_CONVERS. If you don't have Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram at Kaiju_Converse or like us on Facebook. If you're like me before podcasting and you don't have any social media, lucky you, you can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com. All lowercase, all one word, you know the drill. And as always, we'll read your reviews on air for everyone to hear. We also have a Teespring store. Eventually we'll have original artwork, but until then, you can have our awesome logo to sport. If you'd like to chat with us one-on-one, check out our Discord server, where you can you can chat with others on similar things that you like. Recently, we had a discussion about, drumroll please, Ultraman and the gore in the Showa era television shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime we upload a video. We've been posting exclusives to the channel like bloopers for our episodes, mini-sodes talking about news or other subjects. We also have an interview with Mechagodzilla designer Jared Kurchevsky on the channel. I probably butchered his last name. I apologize. But a huge thanks to our Rex for to our Rex. He is our Rex. He is our Rex. Rex is ours. Apparently that was funny.
Yes. Yes, it was.
You're our Rex. You're nobody else's Rex. And if you get a compliment better than that, please let me know.
I've gotten lots of better compliments than that, but thank you anyways.
Dang. Okay. A huge thanks to Rex for editing all of these episodes and the other content we upload. As mentioned, his links can be found in the description below under his Linktree, so please support him. Along with Rex, we'd like to give a huge thanks and shout out to Danny DeManna of the Godzilla Novelization Project for his amazing vocals on our theme song. You can support him by following him on Twitter at Daadzilla93_GNP or visit his website, GodzillaNovelizationProject.com. That was a mouthful. And a huge thanks to Gratton Conwell from the podcast Giant Monster BS for composing the music for our theme song. You can support him by following the podcast on Twitter at Giant Monster BS or on any podcast platform under the name Giant Monster BS. Look at that. I finally got it in the script. What to link? I'm not like, let me look here real quick. And with that, we're going to wrap things up here. Thank you guys so much for listening, and remember to stay dry, stay away from any water you see that's dark.
And stay away from old rundown apartments or anything that even slightly resembles a well.
I have 2 wells on my property, and my best friend lives at a rundown apartment. Actually, fun fact. My best friend's apartment kind of has a similar layout for the steps like Ju-on. And I've pointed that out, and he's like, yeah, it kind of does. So, a little freaky.
I think you're in a bit of an unfortunate predicament there.
I've actually looked in the well a few times to see if I see any, like, crawling, like, dead bodies. Nothing yet.
You should go down and check for any bones.
I've thought about it. But the only issue is it's like a 50 feet, like, drop, and it's a tiny-ass well.
Just get...
So, like, I don't... Yeah, but, like, what if I get stuck, or,
That'd
like, what if, like, somebody covers... What if somebody covers me up, or, like, there is a living, like, dead girl down there? Like, I don't want to do that. I might pay somebody.
But it would be funny.
It would be funny, and then I die, and then...
Probably more fitting for it to happen to me, honestly, given all my...
Honestly, yeah. Yeah. But see, if I die, you have to host, schedule, do all the, like, graphics for the podcast.
Oh, well, at least I get a good laugh.
Wow. Well, with that, I think it's a good note to say, please remember, life's too short to not talk big.
Literally.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.
We are set, we are in debt, there's nothing to sweat. Life's too short now, baby. To not talk big now, baby. Conversation. His name's Elijah, baby. And also Rex now, baby. We love the those kaiju, baby. And you will too now.